Hi, my name is Rick Ferguson. I'm the Artistic Director of the Musical Offering. This is the continuation. How many years have we been doing this?
8.
Is this the 8th?
Yeah.
So this is the 8th version of our fall production. For those of you who've never been to a Musical Offering fall production, you have a huge treat in store. This really started out as a project to explore improvised musical theater and also musical composition. It has, in the last several years, become highly organized and really quite a happening in the fall. So we have Howard Godfrey, Jonathan Hauser. They have teamed up for the second consecutive year to create this show, to create this musical. The name of this year's show is Class Act. And so I'm going to let Howard and Jonathan really describe sort of the substance of the musical, but more specifically get into some of the rehearsal, logistical, artistic issues that one has to deal with when you're working with a project like this. Guys.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just start with a brief kind of summary of the musical.
Yeah.
So Class Act follows a number of high schoolers throughout their years in high school, really throughout one specific year, and they're all within the theater program, and it kind of details their year through a number of newspaper interviews for a school newspaper, and it basically gives a picture of what it's like to be in high school in this time and age. We deal with a lot of social issues, a lot of a lot of just kind of present day issues.
Give a couple of examples of some of the issues, because you know, in previous years we've had some fairly heady material that we've been working with, but a lot of it has been sort of you know, comic in nature, right?
Yeah.
And whereas there are certainly some comic elements to what's going on with Class Act, you know, you two are really choosing to dive into some rather important issues, right? So what are some of the issues?
One is definitely race throughout the theater department, and diversity.
We go into issues of sexuality, and I think there's also kind of some subtle points about sexism, specifically kind of the high school culture of like male-dominated type things. There's one character that comes to mind who can be quite misogynistic, and there's some interesting things with that.
So basically, I mean, this is a microcosm, right, of a lot of issues that we as a society are dealing with right now, right, in one way or another. And so that's the power of you know, an artistic format to really dive in and explore some of these issues fairly deeply. In terms of, you know, like, how do you organize something like this, a project of this nature? Howie, how many people are in the cast and the pit? Like, how many total?
Ooh, I believe there are 28? 28? Yeah, there's a lot. So there's definitely a lot of scheduling. It's been really difficult to schedule not only rehearsals and see what we can do with how many people we have at each rehearsal, but also dividing up our time, because we're kind of limited with space.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of breaking up here and breaking up there and trying to solve this. It's really crazy.
So how is that whole thing going so far?
It's been going well. We have been trying to be a lot more organized this year than we were last year, with kind of sending out a schedule each week to the cast, and having a really very organized way of going about things. I think this year there's been a lot more of an integration with the pit. Last year the pit was very minimal, and when it was there, it wasn't really a part of the show.
What's the instrumentation of the pit?
Oh boy. We have a bassoon, trumpet, violin, viola, cello, bass, electric bass,
baritone saxophone,
tenor sax, harp, clarinet, if I didn't mention that, piano,
keyboard. We have some
keyboard,
cool
some
synthesizer sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really.
So that's larger than some productions, for instance, that I've been to see at the Shakespeare Theater.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a big pit, very kind of eclectic mix of instruments.
And you guys have written the instrumental music, you've written the songs, you've written the lyrics, you've written the script, right? So there's the creative aspect of it as well as all of these organizational pieces to have to manage, right? That's a lot.
Yep.
That's a lot. That's a lot. As far as what you think the running time of the show is going to be, what do you have any sense at this point?
Well, we started blocking about 3 weeks ago, so we haven't put everything together.
Right.
But looking at what we have so far, the script itself is probably about an hour and a half, but we have yet to add music into all of that.
So probably 6 to 8 hours.
So this is it's just going to feel like 6 to 8 hours. So this is a huge undertaking. It's a huge undertaking. So I think that that your audience, is really going to be looking forward to seeing all of these things come together, right? Are there any other, at this still somewhat initial stage, are there any other things that either of you have on your minds, just in terms of where you need to focus in the next couple of weeks?
Well, right now we have like a lot of separate units, so we have certain songs put together and we have certain scenes that we've maybe gone over, but what we really need to do right now is synthesize it. And so that's going to be really important in the coming weeks, and that's always really the hardest part. Obviously the learning process is always a challenge, but really getting that all together with transitions and everything is quite a process.
Yes.
So we'll be really focusing on that.
I also think choreography, we've increased the number of songs probably by about 8.
Yeah.
There's a lot more choreography going on, and a lot of it is really fun, but it's also a really tedious process learning all of it.
And you have one of your peers, right?
Yes.
Abby is doing the choreography. So I think it's important to realize that this is a completely student-driven work. This video and this series of videos is being made by Maxwell Volz, who is, like another student here. So we have, like complete student investment in this project, and that's one of the things that makes it so exciting. Well, I think that we will check back with Jonathan and Howie, assuming that they are still both alive and breathing, in 2 weeks.
I hope so.
And we'll see where we are in the process. So thank you for tuning in.